Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. We'll talk about 3 players up, 3 players down. What are some lessons we can learn from what we got right? Who knows? I've been vetching about a lot of players that I've gotten wrong. We'll still hit those too. Coming up on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by Rival Fantasy. Hey everybody, welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Jeff Erickson here with Fred Zinkie, and today we'll talk about a few guys that we got right, along with a few guys we got wrong. I try not to toot my horn too much, because especially when I've got my horns kind of out of tune right now. But there are a couple of leagues where I've gotten some things right, and we will hit those up right now. But Fred, first of all, how are you?
I'm great. I think you and I both just got back from running children around to various appointments and activities. So I made it home about 10 minutes before we started, just enough time to scroll through the news.
Oh, good. Very good. First thing we had to scroll through was the fake news that Elly De La Cruz is not coming up. He's just not in the lineup tonight. Everyone started to speculate. Is he hurt, or is he getting the call? He's getting the call, right? No, he's really, he's getting the call. He's not in the lineup. I promise. That means he's getting the call. No, Trent Rosecrans threw some cold water on that one, said just getting a day off after traveling a lot. He's been playing a lot. He's close to being ready, but he's not getting the call yet. I wish he were getting the call, because, hey, who wouldn't want a fresh dose of Elly De La Cruz? But he is not getting the call, unfortunately.
If Elly De La Cruz had gotten the call, or when he does get the call, will he be the most sought after position player called up to date this season?
Yeah, he will, but Royce Lewis will be right there too. We had James Anderson on the SiriusXM show today, and he goes, he's the guy that you should be spending the most on should he get the call. Because he's closer to being ready right now, whereas Elly might struggle a little bit more. By the way, I picked up Royce Lewis, so you don't need to go look in Friends and Family. I did that like when he hit 3 homers the other day in his rehab assignment. But because we have first come, first serve in that league, and might as well. On the other hand, Elly De La Cruz is available in Yahoo Friends and Family. It is also first come, first serve. However, that's about to change, because he is no longer available. I just picked him up. So there you go. You always complain about me beating you to a player. You're still beating me in the league, however. So that they're I win the tiny little battle. You're winning the war.
This is my worst season for Friends and Family for
actually I'm ahead of you
players. Wow. And I am having a terrible year in that league. And I don't think I've gotten anyone on waivers of any note. Like, there's no time. I have been really bad, even worse than usual, at seeing transactions, thinking about the transactions, and taking hours to think I should go pick him up for Friends and Family. I haven't gotten anyone this year. So we'll see if I can break that trend.
This is the FOMO team anyhow, so I might as well be the let's speculate on prospects team also while we're at it. It's worked out so well with Jordan Walker sitting there on my bench still. I'm this close to cutting Jordan Walker. I probably should have cut him.
Yep. I could see it for sure, because it looked like maybe there was an opportunity for him to get the call the other day and he didn't. And I feel like that may be enough. I had people reaching out to me on Twitter after that, like this weekend, saying, when is this guy going to get the call? Because it looked like there was an opportunity for them to bring him back and they didn't. So I could see a reason to cut him. I mean, not that I'm trying to encourage you to cut him so that I can go pick him up after you cut him, but he hasn't hit well in the minors. He hit fine it was okay, 718 OPS when he was with the Cardinals, but since he's been in the minors, he actually hasn't played that well. So it's not like he's earning his way back.
Right.
I don't know. I think they know he's a really good young player if they want to bring him back.
Yeah, he has to kind of knock down that door, and he isn't doing that yet.
Yeah.
So I get it.
I thought he knocked it down. Didn't he knock it down during spring training? Like, what happened here? Like, he certainly didn't.
Well, I think he was adjusting to the outfield a little bit, even in spring training. If you look at his spring training stats, go look at the K to walk. It's not very good at all.
Yeah.
And someone just homered for the Cardinals to start off the game here today. trying to figure that. I think it's Goldschmidt that just homered. Sorry, I got distracted. I'll do that.
Lars Nootbaar is hitting leadoff, so if maybe it wasn't him, but
no, it's Goldschmidt because there was one out.
So the Cardinals have with them having Dylan Carlson and Tyler O'Neill in the IL and still not bringing up Jordan Walker.
Yep.
I think that says something that maybe you should drop him.
Well, and the thing is, like, Paul DeJong is tearing the cover off the ball right now.
Yep.
He's one of our 3 up. So let's just go ahead and talk Paul DeJong while we're at it here. We'll talk, and we'll just full on talk Cardinals. Get it out of our system here, because you got to go clean yourself after talking Cardinals. But sorry, I can't resist. But even though it's not even a funny joke, okay, Paul DeJong is like, he's got like a 9-something OPS. He's crushing the ball. He's a Christopher Morel without the youth and hype. But he's absolutely on fire right now. Homered again yesterday. He's forced his way into the lineup. Nolan Gorman has just become I think top 5 in OPS still.
Yep.
I have no Nolan Gorman in any of my teams, and it really hurts.
Same here.
He's a classic, like, post-hype sleeper type.
Yep.
But they've got there's reason. So these guys have to play, right? If DeJong's playing, if Gorman's playing, Donovan means pretty much has to play the outfield. You still got Tommy Edman in the mix, and he's playing every day. Edman can play the outfield some too. I mean, you got to figure out how all the pieces are going to fit. And this is without Tyler O'Neill coming back yet. And Tyler O'Neill is coming back slowly, very slowly from this injury, which was originally thought to be not that big of a deal. But like today, Edman is playing right field. Donovan's playing first base. And Goldschmidt's the DH. That's how they make all the pieces fit this time. Now that they have Contreras back behind the plate, the DH spot at least is available to them. But point is, they've got all these spots of, that they're all these players are trying to squeeze in the spots. Carlson's pretty much out of a job, even if he is healthy right now. And same thing is kind of they're kind of like, take your time, Tyler. They don't really want to rush him back. They've already got 9 guys in that lineup.
Yeah, so Brendan Donovan's the one that sticks out to me as probably not deserving. I know I believe you were not high on Brendan Donovan during draft season. And then remember, he had that great opening series against my Blue Jays.
Yes, I do.
And a lot of people speculated, like, maybe this guy is actually really good. He did have a 394 on base percentage last year. Like, he does know how to get on base. There's no power there. There's no speed there. So far this year, though, even including that series, he's got a 651 OPS going into tonight. Having him play, unless his back comes around, having him play positions that like first base or outfield maybe doesn't make a lot of sense. But I don't know. I still feel like the Cardinals, I don't know. Donovan feels to me like a guy the Cardinals are just going to find a way to get in the lineup. They're just going to like the way he plays. His bat should come around a bit. He's a good defender. I think he's going to keep getting into the lineup. Yeah, I think we've asked before, like, what happened to the Cardinals' devil magic. I think we're starting to see it. I think it's DeJong, Gorman's really on fire after that brief time where he had to sit because they were trying Wilson Contreras, not playing catcher. But now I think we're starting to see some of that Cardinals' devil magic. Yeah,
and they're even playing Gorman against lefties a little bit too.
A little bit,
which is what they need to do. It's the whole. Righties aren't sad against righties. They get to play all the time, but lefties always get this bias against them. You can't hit a lefty. Well, you never let me play against a lefty.
That's right.
Might be biased because I'm left-handed. So I get angry about that sort of thing.
With young players, like I totally see it with young players like Gorman. Like, he's 23. He's not just inexperienced. He's actually young. Sometimes we see guys called up later and it's like, oh, he's young. Oh, no, he's not. He's 27 or 26 or something. Gorman's 23. Like, if you want him to develop into a really good, like a potential all-star, that kind of player, you have to let him play against lefties right now.
Yep. Agreed.
Maybe not every lefty, but some of them.
Yeah. You sit him against Clayton Kershaw. Fine.
Right.
Although I don't think they did. The fact is they've been playing him against everybody, which is nice. So I like seeing that. But yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of pieces they got to try to fit in. And I think there's a pretty good chance we won't be seeing Walker anytime soon. So I'm kind of talking myself into cutting Jordan Walker, and that's going to hurt because I know Jordan Walker is legit. It's not like, okay, a lot of times prospects struggle, but then they end up being fine eventually. And I think that's probably what's going to happen here with Jordan Walker. But, for this year, that might not happen until August. So I don't know. We'll see. I was able to avoid a cut right now, but I'm now stashing 2 prospects and, some injured guys and all that, but so be it. That's the route I'm going there. But DeJong is definitely a guy on the rise right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you look at his, his Fangraphs page, his like other stats, like mostly it's the same. Strikeout rate's the same, the walk rate's the same. His max exit velocity is about the same. His average exit velocity is like a little. Nah, it's pretty much the same. So, I'm assuming he comes back down to earth. On Statcast, he does have a better hard hit rate than he's had. I think he's the same guy. He's just on a heater.
Yeah,
I
I
really
think I agree, and he goes on heaters like this all the time.
Yep.
So I really kind of think this is more of the same too. Probably don't. The thing is, we may have cut him before his heater and the worst team ever. Yeah. Good job. You can blame me and not Shu for that one there because I think he wanted to cut somebody else, but yeah, that didn't work out very well. So be it there.
Yeah, I think he was available. I think in one of my leagues on Sunday. I didn't end up. I bid on him, but I didn't get him. I didn't bid a lot. I think if you have him, you just ride the heater out, but you don't expect him. I would be really surprised if he's on fantasy rosters in August or something like that, even July. So right. I think maybe July. I don't know. I think he's on a heater. I think you enjoy it. I think when the heater ends, you bench him for a week, and if it's still gone, then you cut him.
Yeah.
Exactly. If you got him for $20, if you got him for $30 or $40, sure. Don't spend $100 on him.
Yeah. I'm not the only one that did so. Scott Gilroy said he did the same here too. So
I get it because he seems like he's more of a streamer. It's just the heaters just lasted a little longer than we expected.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about another guy on the rise, and that's the Arizona Diamondbacks' Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Recently naturalized U.S. citizen. Congrats to him on that. He is a cover boy for our photo, even though it's a picture of when he was with your Jays. You're asking, should the Jays petition to undo that trade from the offseason?
They sure should. That's not a big fantasy take, but like Dalton Varsho is, I don't know. Dalton Varsho in fantasy, he's good because you got a catcher. For this year, you've got a catcher with 7 homers and 6 steals right now. Like maybe you'll get a 20-20 catcher or something along those lines. But he has not hit well. He has a 652 OPS. I don't know. I don't want to rail on the Blue Jays too much, but this feels like a trade that was a bad trade. I didn't like it right from the beginning. They lose Moreno, who I think is going to be a really good long-term catcher. He's a good athlete. Gurriel's fine. Like he's hitting maybe a little better than usual this year, but he's a solid offensive player. To upgrade basically from Gurriel's defense to Varsho's, they gave up Moreno. I mean, I guess they get more years of control with Varsho, but I don't know. Gurriel's hit really well so far for the Diamondbacks. He's just shown more power than he showed last season. He's kind of back to being someone who's like a 20 homer, maybe even 25 homer player. This isn't a Babbitt fueled improvement, but he's hitting 321. But he's always been a high average hitter. As far as fantasy goes, he's someone who is good, not great, because he doesn't steal bases.
Right.
Doesn't post massive power numbers either. But he's Alex Verdugo. Actually, he kind of reminds me a bit of Alex Verdugo. Maybe not quite as good, but maybe. Yeah, probably about the same.
I liked him where he was going. So you asked me things I got right. I do have a decent amount of shares of Gurriel, mostly from early drafts, because later on I had other targets, but early drafts he was kind of like hey, I know he's going to play almost every day. This should be a pretty decent lineup, a good young lineup around him.
Yep.
I think that the counting stats will be okay. So he was like your 18th to 20th round in a 15 teamer, if I recall correctly, was about the range where I was getting him. Yeah, so I got Gurriel right, kind of. It's not exactly a flag plant, but the principle is also right there too. And, in these deeper leagues, especially draft and hold leagues, playing time is king. Finding guys that you can get late, that are are going to get regular playing time in a decent spot in the lineup, you got to grab them. Yeah,
absolutely. And that Cardinals team is kind of cool. Diamondbacks team. Sorry, we're off Cardinals. That Diamondbacks team is kind of cool. Like they kind of feel to me like a team that's starting to turn the corner. They've got a winning record so far this season. They've got some interesting pieces in their lineup. Like I'm not sure how good Ketel Marte is, but he's something. He's not bad.
Right.
Corbin Carroll's really interesting. Christian Walker's, been he had a bit of a breakout year last year, or at least a bounce back year, whatever you want to call it. This year, he's built on that. Gurriel, Josh Rojas isn't awesome, but he's like a piece of
Actually,
player you
Rojas
can
has been
use.
sneaky terrible. You know how I
He
know this?
has,
Because I
yeah,
have him on lots of places.
he
But
steals a few bases as far as fantasy goes, but for the Diamondbacks, you're right. I guess he hasn't been. I'm probably giving him a little too much credit because he's got 5 steals so far, which helps in fantasy a little bit. But you're right, he
he
hasn't hit
also has
well.
5 homers plus steals too, if you want
That's
to think
right.
about it.
But Moreno is an interesting guy for them, just building long term. Perdomo has taken a step forward offensively, although I don't know if that's really sustainable, but
Right.
maybe at least to being so. And he started all their recent games, so they kind of were platooning him. I don't know. I'd have to check, see if they're just on a stretch of facing righties or if he's broken through as an everyday guy. And then in the rotation, they've got, Gallon's pitched well and Merrill Kelly's pitched well. And now they have Fott, who hasn't really pitched well, but he's certainly really interesting. I don't know. They're just an interesting team that's looks like they're going to hang around at least in a wild card race.
Good call on Perdomo, by the way. I was just looking up the game log. Nick Ahmed started twice since May 9th.
Yeah.
Which was, and he actually, one of
As
those
he
games
should.
he started, he went 2 for 4 on, it was nice. But you know what? He's a decent defender, and he's not much of a hitter at all. So yeah, the thing is, the Diamondbacks have had some things go wrong. Alec Thomas is in the minors. Jake McCarthy's in the minors.
Yep.
Josh Rojas has 0 homers. They haven't really figured out the bullpen yet, although Chafin and Castro have been fine.
Yep.
It took them a while to get to that point, though. And they're really only 2 deep in the rotation. That's the other thing. Castro's actually been more than fine. He's been really good, actually. But like Ryan Nelson, who I believe is pitching tonight, has been just meh. Zach Davies is on long-term IL. Yep. Tommy Henry is now up. Fott, like you said, hasn't been good. They really, Drew Jameson is in the minors. So they really, they can have some things still go right down the road to improve. And they're 8 games over 500 despite all of that.
Yeah, to me, they maybe profile as a team that just doesn't have enough pitching, and eventually, it catches up with them and they peter out. But they hang around in the race into August or something like that. And then it does feel like, even though some of these NL East teams have started slowly, that eventually the Mets get their act together, or the Phillies get their act together. Or, maybe the Central produces a wild card team. Maybe the Cardinals catch up and the Brewers play well, or the Padres obviously are a good candidate. We'll see, but they have obviously the talent to catch up. But yeah, I think they need more pitching depth. But as you said, like, some things could go more right. Like maybe Fott could kind of take off as at least a mid-rotation type guy in his rookie season. Maybe Jake McCarthy gets back at some point and does what he did in the second half of last year and makes that lineup more dynamic. Dominic Fletcher's just has been up for a little while. He's done some good things. Maybe he can hang around. We'll see.
Yeah, I took a flyer on Dominic Fletcher in my only home league, which is a keeper league. Also got him like really cheap. He's still hitting for average. Yeah, he's not going to hit 338. We know that, but and you look at four walks, 14 Ks, 71 at bats. So that's not that many strikeouts. I think there's something there with Fletcher. And if you look at Fletcher's minor league numbers, they're all pretty good too. I just fear that like the minor league numbers aren't very predictive because they play at Reno, for instance, for their AAA team, which is a launching pad. So you really don't want to like rely on that too much there. But I don't know. At the same time, Fletcher, and the thing is, Fletcher wasn't really a big time prospect. Didn't hit our prospect rankings going into this year. He's a fourth, our outlook said he was a fourth outfielder, uphill battle to get on, one of the things he had an advantage of is he was already added to the 40-man roster. I think he had to be because of when he was drafted. So that gave him the chance, and he's done well with the chance so far.
Yeah. And it's like strength in numbers. Like if he could have a bit of a run and then maybe he peters out, but maybe by the time he peters out, maybe McCarthy comes back. McCarthy's hitting 300 with a 400 on base in 80 at bats since he's been sent to the minors. So, maybe at some point he gets a fresh shot, or they just decide, McCarthy's had enough of a break, clear his head and start fresh. But maybe Fletcher carries them for a month, carries some outfield production for them for a month and then he peters out and then they swap back. So maybe their strength in numbers, I think they can do that with their hitting group. I just don't know if they can do that. I just don't think they have the pitching for it. I think they'd really have to add. To me, they feel like a team that falls out of the race in September or August, or they feel like a team that maybe squeaks in maybe undeservedly, and then it's quickly gone. But that would be huge for them, just to swoop in and be quickly gone. Like that, yeah, that would be huge for that organization.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, one more guy on the rise. Guy I didn't thought of at all coming into this season. That's Seattle Mariners second baseman Jose Caballero. Is he fully taken over for Colton Wong, and is this something bankable?
I'd say almost. He's not starting today, so I guess I can't say that he's fully taken over for Colton Wong. Wong's back in the lineup today. He had started several games in a row before that, so I guess he has mostly taken over. Is this bankable? I'm not so sure at this point.
Yeah,
I'm not racing out to pick him up yet, but he's definitely someone to watch right now. Like if he has a good week this week, sure, he's not starting tonight, but they're playing Oakland right now, so take all the stats with a grain of salt. He homered last night. He was hitting the cover off the ball just in 10. He only played 10 games in AAA before they brought him up this year, but an 1143 OPS. So he's off to a great start in AAA. He can steal bases, not like a huge speedster, but he can steal bases. Yeah, he's an interesting guy for 15 team leagues, I think, right now. Someone who streamed him this week, I didn't even consider streaming him this week. It wouldn't have been a bad play. You could have used him for the 4-game series right now against the A's.
Right.
Because you should use almost anyone who plays pretty much every day against the A's. He probably starts 3 of those 4 games. That would probably be worth it. As a Monday to Thursday, $1, $2 streamer, it wouldn't have been a bad play.
Right. Agreed. So he wasn't considered much of a prospect. Drafted by the Diamondbacks, traded to the Mariners in 2019 for Mike Leake. He was Mike Leake. And who's now retired. So, I mean, they've already gotten someone who reached the majors. So that's like, just reaching the majors is like a win when you're trying to get that there a little bit there. But, hey, I think the real takeaway is, yes, it's really time to worry if you're a Colton Wong manager. If you're still in the Colton Wong business, I can't believe you are. I think he has like 3 extra base hits all year. Probably most people have given up on Colton Wong.
Yeah, I'd say so. And I think that's fine. Like, even if Caballero, eventually declines, I don't think it's going to be Wong at this point. I think it could be Wong in a part-time role. I don't know. I've never been on Wong as far as fantasy goes. I always felt like there's not really that much production there when you break down his stats. Like, did a few seasons with decent steals totals. That's about it.
He went 15-17 last year. That has its uses for the price.
That's true. You're right.
Went 14-12 the year before. He's always been like the cheap source of stolen bases. The end game guy that you throw at your middle infield spot.
Yeah, except I feel like often he gets this year. Maybe not. I don't know. I feel like often he gets drafted before the end game, and he's had a career-long tendency of not putting up runs or RBI totals that are very
That's true.
So I just find that fascinating with him over time. Like, he's been in the majors as a kind of full-time player since 2014. His career high in runs is 71. He's got a 71 and a 70. Everything else is in the 60s or lower. And then in RBIs, he's a 61 from way back in 2015, and a lot of seasons with like in the 40s,
right,
30s. Like, yeah, he's just never, and I know it's partly because he's a platoon player, but I feel like you get whatever, on average, about 10 homers and about, 15 steals, something like that. But then you don't get batting average, and you don't get your runs plus RBIs are typically more like pretty low, like 120, something like that. I just have never felt like he's someone worth really pursuing. I feel like he's more of a streamer.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's probably even... I think that's probably and now he's not even a streamer. He's he doesn't even have a stolen base this year. I mean, it's you
can't steal first.
No,
right?
He's got a 208 slugging percentage. That's tough. All right, no more dunking on Colton Wong. That's like low hanging fruit. He is not one of our fallers. He's already fallen, so he's not a faller. He's fallen. We're gonna hit fallers, but first, quick note from our friends at Rival Fantasy. A new MLB season means it's time for a new kind of daily fantasy baseball. Rival Fantasy is the fantasy platform reinventing the way daily and weekly games are played. And they brought new games to the ballpark this year that fantasy players won't find anywhere else. Rival Fantasy games include Fantasy Bingo, head-to-head player challenges, and Fantasy Book, where users can select over-unders for 2 to 5 players. With games like this, daily fantasy has never been better. Right now, RotoWire listeners can get a $50 protected first play. That means if you win your first play, you obviously keep your winnings. But if you lose your first entry, Rival Fantasy will fully refund you up to $50. Go to play.rivalfantasy.com/signup and use code RotoWireMLB at signup and deposit a minimum of $25 to get your first entry on Rival protected up to $50. It's so key to get these first-time offers no matter what platform you play in here. So check that out. Play.rivalfantasy.com/signup. Now's the time to step up to the plate and become a rival today. Welcome to the arena. Also, we're on the Blue Wire Network. We're going to play a couple of their ads right now. All right. We did the 3 up. Let's talk about 3 down. And I know a lot of chatter in the chat room already about this guy. That's Michael Harris. We were talking about this before the podcast. So on the worst main event live draft team drafted ever, that's not purposely bad or rogue drafter bad, it's just bad, is my Vegas main team, and that's Michael Harris. I got him in the 3rd round. Not in the lineup today against the Dodgers and Bobby Miller making his debut. We'll talk about that in a second. There's some news as far as the Dodgers go. But Michael Harris has 1 homer this year. I mean, he has exactly 4 stolen bases. So Ryan Bloomfield on his Bloom boards did like a list of players with less than 5 combined homers and stolen bases and hitting like 220 or below. Michael Harris would, he'd be at the top of that list if he had 1 fewer stolen base. But now he's been dropped to 8th or 9th in the order most of the time. We spent a 3rd round pick on him, and he might get sent down. He's been that bad.
He should be sent down. To me, that would make perfect sense. And I think there'd be no shame in him going down. Like what he did last year at his age is remarkable.
Yeah.
He's still only 22. Like he's 22. He had great success last year as a 21-year-old. If they need to send him down, it's okay. Like send him down. The Braves team has a great lineup. They've got Kevin Pillar right now as a 4th outfielder who's played really well this year. I know that probably won't last, but he's got a 786 OPS. He's had a few big home runs for them this year. He's an Alex Anthopoulos guy. Like Anthopoulos had him back in Toronto, and clearly likes him. Like he pulled him off the scrap heap and gave him another shot. I think when his career was kind of hanging by a thread. To me, it makes perfect sense to maybe make Pillar. Pillar has pretty balanced splits in his career, so he could kind of play most days. Put Harris in the minors for a month. Just play Pillar every day. Have Pillar hit 9th or 8th or something like that. And, bring up whoever you need to bring up to be a 4th outfielder. And let's try to get Michael Harris right. In a 15-team league, I don't think I could drop Michael Harris.
I'm not dropping him. I'm going to ride this one till the bitter bloody end.
Would you keep him if they demote him? Would you keep him
for at least 2 weeks to see if this is a quick send down or not? Yeah. Maybe even longer.
Unless they demoted him and said, right at the demotion time, this is going to be a while. Like, you know what I mean? Like where they demote someone and say, we're going to give them a long time in the minors.
Yeah, sure.
We'll bring them back maybe in the second half. We just want to get them right for the long run. So anyways, all those, in a 12, would you drop them? And just start streaming this spot.
That's getting closer, but I mean, I still probably would try to park him on my bench. I haven't even benched him yet. So I've been really stubborn. So here's a couple of things about Michael Harris. A lot of the talk going into the season is, he's going to definitely drop an average because he struck out so much last year. He's actually striking out less. He had a 4.8 walk percentage, 24% K percentage. It was actually 5% walk rate last year. It's up to 8.5 this year, and his K percentage is actually down to 20%. So he's actually striking out less. He's just doing nothing with the contact. I think that's the real problem. He's even hitting, and he's just no line drives at all, Fred. Like it was 17% last year. It's 12% this year. Can't get by the 12% line drive percentage. Man, I'm talking. This is the more I talk, the more pessimistic I'm getting.
He should be like, if you just look at like his advanced stats, like his StatCast data says 218 batting average. It's got his X slug is at a little over 100 points higher than his slug. I mean, of course he has been unlucky. Like
197 BABIP, but that's because he's not hitting the ball very hard.
For sure. But I mean, even for not hitting the ball very hard, 197 is really low, right? Yeah. Like you should even be able to fluke your way if you're not hitting the ball very hard to at least with his speed, and he puts a lot of balls on the ground, like you should be able to fluke your way to a 250 BABIP or something like that. Obviously, he's a mess. He's not climbing up the Braves lineup anytime soon. He's not going to climb up the Braves lineup barring injury ever. Like that lineup's loaded at the top. You know,
he found a way to climb.
Ozzy Albies hit 6. Well, sorry, he would have to hit really, really well all of a sudden.
I think I am benching him now until well, now that the Braves are benching him, I think it's a natural, easy decision to bench him. I think in a 12, I might actually cut him now. On a 15, I'm still hanging because what's your replacement value? And the disaster, of course, is if somebody else picks him up and he starts doing well. Okay, so you need the roster spot in Yahoo Friends and Family theoretically. Jordan Walker or Michael Harris, one of them's got to go. Who goes?
Jordan Walker.
Yeah,
just because I don't think Jordan Walker's coming up anytime soon.
Okay,
I'd say keep Harris until such time as the Braves send him down, and then yeah, I would. I guess I'd cut Walker first. I'll say that I cut Walker first. I might cut them both.
Okay,
it would depend what's out there. So how about this? I'm not going to cut Harris just to cut him.
Okay.
Right. So if I was on a team like an NFBC team and my team is pretty healthy and I felt like I could make the moves I needed to make on Sundays without cutting him, I would keep him. And then I'd probably cut him as soon as I felt like I needed the spot. To bring this back, for example, on one NFBC team, I kept Jake McCarthy for a couple of weeks after they sent him down. You know, I had spent like an 8th rounder on him. I was interested to see if they would just send him down for like a week or two and then bring him back up. And I didn't have a lot of injuries on that team. So I was able to make the moves I needed to make and keep him. Then once a couple weeks passed and it didn't feel like they were going to bring him up anytime soon and I needed the roster spot, then I cut him. So maybe I'd feel the same way about Harris.
I've still got McCarthy on my bench in labor. I'm hanging on for dear life. But...
You can do that in labor. With the unlimited IL and 6 bench spots, you could do that. I would still have him on my bench too, I think. Yeah. I would, yeah.
I've climbed all the way to like 10th, in that league. I'm rocketing up the charts. Yeah, it's it's still nowhere close to your stratosphere, but I'm not it's not as embarrassingly bad as it was before. All right. And if Lourdes, we were talking Lourdes Gurriel earlier there. Lourdes Gurriel's available and you've got Michael Harris. I'd make that change.
Move. Yeah, and in a league where that's also like maybe a bit of it says I'm in a 12 and I can get Lourdes. Yeah, 100%. That's not only a 12, that's a 12 with probably shallow benches. Yeah. So in that case, Harris has got to go. It's just
and there's nothing against you going ahead and getting Harris back later on. I know it sucks if he's your keeper or a 3rd round pick or whatever. But in a 12 where roster spots are a lot more fluid, I think you got to do it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, if players at Lourdes Gurriel's caliber are available, then it's for sure a league where you have to drop them.
Yeah. All right. How about this is a guy that you warned against drafting in the 1st round. We'll play the tapes back. Fred Zinkie says, do not take Bobby Witt in the 1st round. Bobby Witt is now batting 6th for the for the Royals. His on base is awful. He's still fantasy wise not killing you yet. 7 homers and 13 stolen bases. He's not just killing you. He's probably a plus player.
Yep. But
he is hitting 220 now. He's only driven in 19 runs. Yeah, well, of course he was batting leadoff, so you're not going to get a lot of RBI there, but especially on the Royals. But he scored 29 runs. So he's a classic, better in fantasy than real life. But if he keeps batting 6, the runs scored are going to go down too.
Yeah, if he doesn't come around much, like even if he goes 20 homers, 30 steals, if that comes with like a 240 average with the offensive output around baseball this year, if it comes with a 240 average and like 60 RBIs and like 70 runs, 75 runs, that's crummy. That's really crummy for your 1st round pick. Like the homers and steals are fine, but it just falls apart after that. We'll see. Maybe I won't be right. Maybe he'll have a huge summer. I don't know. But just the whole concept going into the season of drafting someone, even a young player in the 1st round who had a 294 on base last year, just didn't sit well. And maybe there's a cumulative take here with him and with Michael Harris. Michael Harris was really good last year on the surface, but like you said, like the strikeout and walk rates were concerning. Maybe just your your first 2 or 3 hitters, your hitters in those first, say, 4 rounds should be someone with like a track record, or B, if they don't have much track record, the skills are like undeniable. You know what I mean? Like Michael Harris's rookie year, but with like good plate discipline, something like that, where the skills are just, you're like, okay, there seemingly aren't really holes in this player's game.
Yeah. Well, let's go back over time. Let's play this. What should have we done? Sort of game, because that's always fun to beat yourself up on what you should have done sort of thing here. So instead of Bobby Witt, if on average he was going to team 10 in the main event, you could have had Corbin Burns. That didn't work out so well. Yeah, I talk about that.
I still might rather. Okay, going forward, I would still rather have Corbin Burns.
Yeah, I would too, but
yeah, I would.
I think Witt might have out-earned him. I'm just saying. Those,
he probably has. Oh, he has. Yeah.
I mean, at least you have the stolen bases. I mean, I can't emphasize that enough. I mean, I saw a big trade in the RotoWire Staff Keeper League for Estuary Ruiz, Ryan Roof, frequent listener of the pod, commenter, occasional guest, and contributor to RotoWire, and darn good player. Just made a big trade to go for it trade by trading for Ruiz. Those stolen bases are huge when you know you're getting them. Okay, after Witt, so Burns, Vlad Guerrero Jr. hasn't been awesome so far.
Not awesome. Probably no better than Witt, but I would rather have Guerrero going forward just because he's just such a better overall. I just really worry Witt could be pretty bad. Like the steals aren't as plentiful and the bat doesn't come around. But you're right. Vlad has been like, meh. He's got an 846 OPS, actually a little better than the one he had last year, but he hasn't. I think we were expecting Vlad to be better than, like, noticeably better than last year, and he hasn't been.
Yeah. Vlad Guerrero has not been amazing so far. He's been good. He's a plus guy, 293, 7 homers, 27 RBI, 2 stolen bases, even as a nice little bonus, 25 runs scored. He hasn't killed you, but he is also not like, oh yeah, I'm winning my league because I have Vlad in the first round either.
No, but I would take.
I'd take him over Witt.
Yeah.
But
not.
Yeah. So according to our earned auction values, though, Vlad is worth $18 so far. Witt is worth $18 so far.
Okay. There you go.
So there you go. Mookie Betts was next on the list. Who would you rather have for the rest of the season, Mookie or Witt?
Oh, Mookie.
Yeah, he qualifies at second now too.
Yeah. He's a little Vlad-like, where he's been like fine, but not like, he's not stealing bases. He's not hitting for average. So, but the runs and RBIs are there. Power is there. He should hit 30 home runs this year. The steals are a little concerning. I think his batting average will come up a bit. I would guess on your earned auction value. Oh, I don't know if Witt would be, who would be first, Witt or Betts so far.
Betts Betts is at $20 and Witt's at 18.
Okay.
So
I'm interested that I'm actually almost a little surprised that Betts is ahead of Vlad on that, because combined homers and steals, Betts has 2 more, but his batting average is a lot lower. He's got a few more runs plus RBIs. They're pretty close. Anyways, I'll take Betts going forward because he's a good baseball player. So I'm going to take anyone over Witt who's even comparable right now, just because they're better overall players, so a lot more stable assets. Okay, What else you got?
Okay, so Machado, no,
can't.
Soto. We had a whole segment on his struggles early on. He's starting to hit a little bit better now. Yep. Freddie Freeman.
I'll take Soto for sure.
I'm just gonna. I'll give
Freddie
you
Freeman's been awesome.
Yeah, Tatis.
Got to take Tatis.
Jordan Alvarez. Remember how much we were like wringing our hands about the injury? I know I personally was. And he's been fine. He's missed a couple of games, but my goodness, he's been amazing.
OPS
and health-wise, he's been fine. Yeah,
absolutely.
Health-wise, he's been fine. That's what I meant. Batting-wise, he's been awesome. So that was the clear answer. Riley, who has been a bit of a disappointment. Trout's been really good. Doesn't run, but we know that. And then Pete Alonso, and I think we've gone deep enough there now. But you can kind of see there weren't easy solutions. At least you could have. Strider is probably the real answer there. Just go. Go Strider, and then your pitching's taken care of for a while.
Yeah, just comparing him to hitters, I guess you're right that the hitters list we just went through, not many of those hitters are like way better than Witt to this from a fantasy perspective. They're all better hitters, from a real life perspective, but from a fantasy perspective, they're not way better or way more valuable to this point, other than Freeman and Alonso. I guess those are the only ones that have been way, way better. Yeah, we'll just see where Witt goes from here. But I think bottom line is, I think if you picked Witt, I don't know, I guess you're not really in love with that pick so far. Like, you're not feeling great about it.
Right, exactly.
So far. And so like I said, I wonder if the takeaway with players like him and Michael Harris are just to be careful of players with massive flaws in their game. For Witt, it was the ability to get on base. For Harris, it was his strike zone.
The ability to get on base. Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically.
Well, yeah. Last year he did get on base, but it was because he hit for a really high average.
Yeah.
You were really banking on that high BABIP again, like at a 361 last year. You're betting on that, or for his plate discipline to really come around.
The third faller, and he hasn't fallen really far, but he's fallen some. Is pitcher Zack Wheeler. Pitched last night, allowed 4 runs on 8 hits and a walk over 6 innings. He's got a 64 to 14 K to walk. He always has a great K to walk in 57 innings. Yet he sits there with a 4.11 ERA and a 123 WHIP. It's a little incongruous. The WHIP is actually higher than it has been the last 3 years. This is kind of what his MO used to be WHIP wise, but he's been frustrating so far, as have many of the other Phillies.
Yeah, so I think Zack Wheeler in a trading league would be a buy low right now. Like 327 BABIP, which is high for him, would be almost the highest of any season in his career. 65.8 strand rate, that's really low. He's never been not usually a great strand rate pitcher, but that's still about 10% below his career average. So I mentioned to you, and I think in the notes, that I feel like Aaron Nola, it's just funny to me because they're teammates. I feel like Aaron Nola has done this to fantasy owners a couple of times, where all season everything points towards Aaron Nola being awesome except the actual results. Right? Like we had the 2019 season, which I know was happy fun ball, but still, like, he had a 387 ERA that season. We had the year 2021, the year after the shortened season. He had a 333. Nola had a 333 FIP, but a 463 ERA. So Wheeler to me is just like that season right now. His FIP's 292, his ERA is 411. Like everything here feels like buy low on Zack Wheeler because he's going to come around.
I agree.
Except that, like I said, we've seen this from Nola, where all season I wrote him up as buy low, etc., and then he just never came around.
Except then he does, like last year.
It's like the next year he comes around.
Yeah,
that doesn't help you if you buy low on him this year.
That's true. That's
so I would all the Aaron Nola stuff I wrote, I would have done it all. I would do it all over again, even knowing that he didn't come around. Zack Wheeler, same thing. I'd rather buy low on Zack Wheeler now and have him not come around and just be like, oh, you know what, my process was good. I just picked like wrong guy. Like if you're looking to buy low in a trading league on someone with ace level potential who hasn't put up ace like results, I think Zack Wheeler's a fine target.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right.
And he's not like he's getting hit. Like it's not like he's just giving up home run after home run where people are teeing off on him. He's only giving up 4 home runs. He just needs a little bit of batted ball luck and a little bit of sequencing luck to help his strand rate.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
So George Springer just got his tower buzzed, but didn't get hit. It wasn't even that bad, but
no, actually I have that game on, and
yeah,
a little dramatic. Whatever, he's just getting out of the way, I guess.
These divisional rivals all hate each other. It's always it's great to see that. The Rays always seem to get in these scraps. They get that way with the Yankees for sure, and maybe even the Red Sox too, a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, there was a little bit, and and then Springer got his revenge. Same at bat, hanging breaking ball parked into the outfield there. Ooh, that was
Jeff, what we just established here is that your TV is about 10 or 15 seconds ahead of mine. So
sorry.
I just saw him make contact as I said. Rosarena doesn't even turn around.
The funny thing is, I'm usually behind.
Must take the feed longer to cross the border.
Well, yeah, of course. They have to translate it first of all.
That's true.
Sorry.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
But anyways, George Springer is another one of those guys that I would buy low on right now because he's always so pretty steady. Sorry,
I was going to say I wrote an article for Yahoo last week on just players I would buy low on for no statistical reason.
Yeah.
Like usually my buy lows are like I just mentioned with Zack Wheeler. Like everything with Zack Wheeler points to a rebound. Like he's had poor BABIP luck and his strand rate's low and his FIP's really low compared to his ERA. So I can give you all these statistical reasons why Zack Wheeler's been unlucky and should probably turn around. There's a few players out there like George Springer where you just look at his surface stats and you're just like, nah, that's not him.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree.
Jose Abreu or someone like that's different. I purposely in the article put him at the bottom in a separate column saying like I didn't forget about Jose Abreu. I don't want him in the article, and like he's older and I just don't. I think maybe he's hit a wall. George Springer, you just look at it. He's had an OPS over 800 in every year of his career, including his rookie year. Every year of his career. And this year was 662 going into tonight's game. Like he's gonna straighten this out. It's just oh sorry, I'm wrong. He had 1 year with a 780 OPS. Yeah. Bottom line is he's gonna straighten this out.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah,
I definitely.
So it's just like I don't even need to look at the advanced stats unless he's hiding an injury. This is going to get sorted.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's true. Yeah. By the way, the Mookie Betts led off with the double against Spencer Strider. He won that first round pick comparison there, back to back, basically an ADP in the main event. Kind of funny to see that kind of comparison there. Let's hit a few news and notes. Let's start with the Dodgers. Bobby Miller's about to make his major league debut. The Dodgers are up in the top half of the inning. Couple of things there, though. Dustin May got put on the 60-day IL today. Moved to that from the 15 days. So that's, we were talking on Sunday. Is May a cut? He's a cut. He's not going to throw for 6 weeks. You can cut him now. He's absolutely a guy that is going to take a long time to come back if he comes back at all this year. If you don't have IL spots, move on.
Absolutely. I also have serious concerns as to how good Dustin May is because before the injury, he was profiling, and maybe this is injury related. Like maybe the injury is coming, but before the injury, he was profiling as arguably the luckiest pitcher in baseball to that point in the season. He would be right there in the top 5.
Certainly in terms of, dominance, the dominant stats, the strikeouts, the swing and miss was not there. The swing and miss was like astoundingly low.
Yeah. The walks were there. Like everything there said this guy is like a 4-something kind of ERA. I felt like, the swing and miss not being there. Like nowadays, if your strikeout rate is just double your walk rate, or your strikeout total is just double your walk total, which his basically was, like you shouldn't be doing what he's done. He's always been a low BABIP guy. Maybe I was a little too hard on him, and like looking at him a little further, his FIP when he went on the IL was 329, but I don't know. That strikeout rate was really concerning. Again, maybe a sign that the injury was coming.
Yeah.
We'll never know. Doesn't matter. I'm with you. He's a full cut.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because the guy can't catch a break right now.
And in a weird position now, the Dodgers do not have really any semblance of a rotation. We have not seen this. We've seen flaws in the Dodgers at times, but right now, they do not have anything that even resembles a postseason rotation.
They did not want to call up Gavin Stone. They did not want to call up Bobby Miller. They had to. The May injury caused some of that, and Urias is on the IL. Stone walked like 5 guys yesterday. Now, granted, he faced the Braves. That's a tough team to pitch against, and he faced the Phillies before that in his only other start. So it's a tough spot. The guy that James Anderson was talking about to keep an eye on is Emmett Sheehan. He's in Double-A right now, and he might get the call soon. He's having perhaps the best season of all the Dodgers pitcher prospects. And James is coming up with a new set of prospect rankings on Thursday, which you can check out, rotowire.com/pod, when you get that free trial behind our paywall there. The rankings will go up on Thursday, and you can see that the adjusted Dodger pitching prospect rankings, among others. He's more optimistic about Sheehan than he is against Bobby Mill, than he is against Stone or Grove or any of those guys.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm not optimistic about the other guys at all. So I like him digging deeper to maybe find someone else. Looking at Miller, like in advance of his debut, and we'll see what happens with him today. But he threw 6 innings last time out in AAA. But all of his other starts this season he had not finished the 4th inning. So, not that there were that many starts, but his other starts, he had not finished the 4th inning. So I don't know what kind of length the Dodgers will get out of him if he struggles at all. I agree with you. I don't think they wanted to call him up. I don't think he's necessarily ready. Like I said, this is a weird position. And as a fantasy owner, like we're programmed to just say, Dodgers called up a pitching prospect. Let's get him.
Yeah.
Because he's probably going to be good. And that hasn't been the case this year. And I've really backed off of them. Like for the Dodgers to make a run this year, they're going to need at least one really good pitcher at the deadline.
The funny thing is, all the contenders, like not all the contenders, but so many contenders are in the same boat. The Braves right now have 3 starters that they can count on. Maybe Schuster becomes the 4th, but we'll see about that. The Astros are going with JP France and Brandon Bilek as their 4th and 5th starters, and I don't trust either of those guys. The Dodgers, now that we're talking about them like that, and you go down the list, there's a lot of teams needing help in their rotation. It's pretty ugly right now.
Yeah, it is. With the Dodgers, I'm not even sure if they even have, at least some of those other teams have pitchers at the top.
Yeah.
Like the Braves have Javier, Framber Valdez, etc. The Braves, have Strider, right? Like Bryce Elder actually looks really good so far. Dodgers, yeah, I know it is early. The Dodgers, I just don't even know what they have at the top. Like I don't know how many innings they can count on from Kershaw. Urias, we'll see when he comes back, but he wasn't pitching well.
Gonsolin's pitching well, by the way.
Back. He's been like his ERA is really good, but
he's doing what he always does.
Yes, he's doing what he did last year for sure. Ridiculously low BABIP, an ERA that's way, way below all of his advanced stats. I guess we'll see where it goes from here.
One of these years, that's going to catch up to him, Kyle Hendricks-like. But until it does, it's one of those where the advanced, where the advanced stats are going to suggest and be wrong for 4 years, and they'll finally say, "Aha, I was right." He was going to decline. But I kind of I get that feel about him. But yeah, he's also limiting the number of innings he can throw. There's that. Thor has not been improved. The Dodgers devil magic doesn't work on him like it did like Tyler Anderson.
Yes.
And some other pitchers that were.
Yes, this is my thought as a fantasy owner is like Thor's another one. I grabbed Thor in labor and I cut him. Like I cut him in a 15-team league with unlimited IL slots. I cut him. I just wanted him off my roster.
This is our labor league, huh?
Yeah, in our labor league. So, that's a really, really deep league. And I was just like, no, I kept Matt Stram. I was like, I'd rather roll him out as a reliever and maybe he'll get back into the Phillies rotation. And I think he actually maybe has some talent. I just didn't want to deal with Thor anymore. But when I picked Thor, it was kind of like round 20-ish. And it was basically just on the premise that he had a 3.94 ERA last year, which is okay. And he's on the Dodgers now. So he's going to do better.
So that kind of raises the question to me, who's got that pitcher to trade at the deadline? Where are these pitchers going to come from to magically help these teams in need?
Maybe they're not going. Maybe they're not going to.
I don't see a whole lot out there. Things can change. Some teams might get. It might be Lucas Giolito. Everybody in the world is going to try to trade for Giolito. Maybe the Marlins provide some pitching somewhere somehow, but Marlins are in second place though, or at least they were the other day. I don't know if they are right now, but point is, it's really difficult to find it out there.
There could be teams like the Cubs or the Cardinals, maybe if they don't catch up, that just give up and trade.
Yeah, but so the Cardinals' problem is they don't have top end starting pitching though.
No, not top.
So what do they have to offer? Like
just innings eaters, Miles Michaelis type innings eaters.
Hold me back.
Yeah, well, it could help a team to maybe get over. It would help a team like the Dodgers maybe just not have to start pick guys who aren't ready. But
yeah,
as far as you're right, like teams like the A's and the Royals who are just totally out of it, they don't have any pitching to offer. Yeah, if someone can go out there and offer an ace at the deadline this year, you'd think that they would get a lot.
You know who might have a surplus of pitching is the Boston Red Sox, which is weird when you consider they've given up 244 runs. They're not one of the better teams in baseball run prevention wise, but they're going to get Garrett Whitlock back. They got to figure out what they're doing with Tyler Houck. They got to figure out if Bayo is part of this rotation. Paxton's back. Sale is shoving, by the way. I have no Sale. I have 0 Chris Sale this year. So that's another one you can log that as another one of the Jeff mistakes out there. They've got some depth in that rotation. It's just, I can't figure out who's going to be who's going to get the cut. Cause I don't see them necessarily as a 6-man rotation team either. So something's got to give at some point in here. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Nick Pivetta in the bullpen, the Dodgers are gladly.
He's already there.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Dodgers. Well, he just went there, and the Dodgers would probably gladly have Nick Pivetta in their rotation right now, just to eat a few innings. I think there's enough badness in that rotation that it'll kind of fall apart. Like Sale's ERA is still over 5.
Yeah.
Kluber stinks.
Oh, Kluber's terrible.
Yeah, so like he's an easy punt to the bullpen at some point if they.
Steven Matz for the Cardinals, same
Paxton,
thing.
what's the over under on Paxton staying healthy? 2 months, probably. If he could do 3 months, I'd be like pretty proud of him and happy.
By the way, speaking of the Cardinals, we'll go back to the Cardinals for a second because why not?
Sure.
Did you see the quote today from Ollie Marmol?
I did not.
It's my favorite.
But I do know that he drives you nuts. So what do you got?
He does. John Denton said this, and Denton writes for the MLB's the MLB.com writer for the Cardinals. Actually, he goes, Marmol said Liberatore will be available in relief tonight because of the shortage of relievers available following Monday's 10-inning loss. The team can't afford overexposing the bullpen just so Liberatore can start in Cleveland. I hate this guy.
I picked up one Liberatore. I'm not starting him this week. I picked up one share of him on Sunday. I think I spent about $50 on it on a team that still had plenty of FAAB left.
Okay.
I kind of regretted it. It's one of those ones, like, you know how you go through your results, and typically you're excited if you got the person and disappointed if you didn't. I had a weird feeling when I got Liberatore where I got him and I wasn't really excited.
I got him in a couple of places. I kind of was excited, but yeah.
It's nothing against the pitcher or the skill set or anything. It's
the Cardinals. Yeah.
It's just the way that they've handled him so well. And I do get that we'll see if they actually need him. I do get that they used 4 relievers last night. So
but it was just one extra inning. It's not like they went 17 innings in this game or something like that.
But I guess they did have to dip into the bullpen like early enough that they had 4. They did use 4 and they all pitched
and Flaherty couldn't get out of the 5th on Sunday too. So there is that. But
I mean, they only used 2 relievers on Sunday, two from their current bullpen on Sunday. Yeah. So, 2 not counting Liberatore on Sunday. Yeah. So, I don't know.
Cardinals
I'm worried about how
today, by the way.
Yeah, I'm worried about how he's going to be used. And we'll see. You'd think there'll be an injury. The only reason I wasn't told that I put competitive bids on him, I don't know. There's just Wainwright's like 40. Matt's is hurt all the time. Flaherty's hurt all the time. I just feel like there'll be an injury somewhere.
Yeah, and the thing is, just be patient.
Give it 2 or 3 weeks if he's hanging around. Yeah. They just got to keep him stretched out.
For sure. By the way, Matt McClain homered in that game for the Reds, so good news there if you spent on him a little bit. But the Dodgers and Braves are tied 1-1, so Bobby Miller has now given up his first major league run too. So there is that. Sean Murphy I think had the double to knock a run in on that one there. But lots going on there. Astros, we talked about how they're short on help a little bit. Lance McCullers isn't going to be back until at least the All-Star break. There's not a lot of immediate help along the way there. I know Forrest Whitley had a setback health-wise recently too, so I don't think he's walking through that door anytime soon. They really, they don't really have too many immediate options too. I wouldn't be surprised if they are in the market to trade. Everyone's going to be trading for Giolito basically, or Lance Lynn. Although I don't know if I can do that, if I could stomach that yet.
Yeah, well, hopefully that would be a big thing for the White Sox would be maybe to see see Lance Lynn rebuild his trade value by the end of July. Looking at JP France has been not that good since his first start was okay. He's really been not that good. Belak has a 2.89 ERA. He's got a 1.77 WHIP. So that's not good.
He doesn't strike guys out either.
No, and he walks a lot of guys. Yeah, there's a lot of teams here that are going to be. It does look like just hanging on with the back end of their rotation. This is why I'm so frustrated, by the way, with my Blue Jays, and I don't talk about them. I try not to talk about them too much on here, but they actually have 5, what should be 5 credible starters. Like they're not dipping into the Brandon Belaks and the calling up players.
Right.
Like they actually have all of their pitchers healthy. They just need some of them like Manoah, Barrios, Kikuchi to just be a little more consistent. But they actually have 5 credible starters, 5 guys who can go out at any time and throw 5 or 6 innings. This is a team
that's found a way to lose lately.
Lately, they've hit a hard part of their schedule. Like they went Yankees, Orioles, now Rays. And
Mhm.
you're right. The Jays have found a way to just score 2 runs less than the other team. So the night the Jays score 4, they don't get a great pitching performance and they give up 6. And the night that their pitcher pitches well and they give up 3, they score 1. Like they found a way. If they get a lead, they got a lead the other day. Romano blew it. Like they just are finding ways to lose right now, and it's at a really tough part of the schedule. And they go from this series against the Rays to play the Twins in Minnesota on the weekend. So they just could really use a soft landing right now.
Well, and they
Like
started by sweeping the Braves in that
they did.
homestand.
That was
And
really
then
good.
they lost 6 out of 7 after that.
That's right. And they had a sweep of the Pirates, who are not a total doormat this year.
Right.
But then they also got swept by the Red Sox, like before this losing streak.
Mhm.
Before this losing streak started. So yeah, they're finding ways to lose right now in a division where, there are a lot of teams. Everybody has a winning record.
Yeah, that's right.
But you would think if this rotation stays intact with how dire the rotations are on some other teams, if the rotation stays intact and you can just keep throwing out guys like Kikuchi and Barrios at the back end, that eventually that will pay off.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Just they are also in the wrong division though. That they could they're at risk of right now. They're in 5th in their division.
Yep, they are. The Jays also went on a different path. We talked about it earlier with the Gurriel trade. Like they tried to actually purposely get worse offensively in order to shore up their defense.
And that part has worked, by the way. Their defense is spectacular.
Yeah.
And the outfield.
Yes, their outfield defense is spectacular. Yeah. There's been times like Guerrero had a couple errors last night.
Oh.
Like, you know what it's been? It's been, I think, Keegan Matheson, who covers them for MLB.com, said like the Jays are just in a run right now where they've been punished for every mistake.
Yeah.
Like Vlad can't scoop a ball out of the dirt last night, and like Jose Siri hits a home run like right after it. Like it's just when the Jays screw up, it just seems to bite them right now. They're just on a bad run. And again, they're facing good teams. So
yeah, that's true.
See, they're winning tonight. Maybe they get back on track here. If they could split a 4-game series in Tampa, I think that would be a good recovery and then go from there. But I'm not actually even that worried about them. But they're on a bad run. And some players like Alejandro Kirk, now we can jump back into fantasy, like really disappointing so far this year.
Yeah, very much so. I like at least Danny Jansen's homered here and there.
Yep, for sure.
And it's it's kind of one of those where Jansen probably deserves a little bit more playing time. Although I think Kirk is a pretty decent receiver behind the plate. I think
they like Jansen better
as
a receiver. So that's always been the vibe I get. And so if Jansen's hitting 195, but like you said, he's hit a few home runs. If their OPSs are similar, I'd rather have Jansen in the lineup. But they need Kirk to come around, so he's got to keep playing half the time.
Yep.
Right. So yeah. But Varsho needs to hit better. Springer needs to hit better. Even Vlad needs to hit a little bit better.
Yeah. We have a revenge game homer in Atlanta. No, not Freddie Freeman, but Jason Hayward against his former Braves team. Off of Spencer Strider, 2-1 in that game there. You were mentioning your Jays. They're up 3-0 on Taj Bradley. Just got that 3rd run in the 4th inning. So they're playing well today. At least they've got a lead as far as that goes.
I have 0 Taj Bradley shares, and I felt bad about that for a while, and now I don't. I'm just not totally sure where that's all going to go from here. Like if we were to rank all the rookie starters, there was a point where you would have put Taj Bradley number 1. Mm-hmm. Now I feel like you put him after, I don't know, 3 or 4 of them, at least 2 or 3.
Yeah, definitely behind Bryce Miller. And I think we'll probably put him behind Yuri Perez as well. We'll see about the others on that list there. But
Bybee has good ratios so far.
Yeah.
Really good strikeout to walk. So you're right.
Sure.
Perez, Miller, Bybee, Logan Allen has a high whip, low ERA. I'm not really sure. That one's a debate. Yeah.
I left Yuri Perez active this week for his 2 start at Colorado tonight and then at the Angels this weekend.
Good for you.
Dicey.
Really dicey. I don't know. Yeah. So what place is that team in?
Well, I have multiple spots, but one of them is on the worst team ever. So
why
nothing
not?
To lose.
Yeah.
Right?
I left Tanner Houck active on a team that's doing poorly. Yeah. And Houck had a good start last night. He didn't get the win, but he had a good start. But it was the same thought. It was like, I don't know, my team, I don't know what place they were in, like 9th or something like that. And I was like, you know what? This team's got to climb the standings. Tanner Houck's pitched better than his ERA had indicated going into last night. Let's give him a shot to turn it around.
I was
I could see
comforted,
that
by
with
the way,
Burns.
by Steve, our colleague Steve Gardner's column, the 4 teams in last place column that you mentioned before we
Yeah.
started today.
Yeah. Steve is as good at playing fantasy baseball, really, as you'll find around the industry. So,
Yes.
so it's the kind of column you can write when you've got a really good track record like Steve. But it just goes to show it's a humbling game.
Yep.
And this has been a bit of a weird. They're all weird, but I don't know. This has been a weird year so far.
It
We've had
is.
we talked about it in spring training. We had a lot to wrap our heads around. What were the
Mhm.
stolen bases going to be like, and how is the shift going to impact baseball? This is a weird year. We're going to go into. I cross my fingers, but we're going to go into next year's offseason with a lot more certainty. They're not going to be massive rule changes this winter. You know, we're going to have, I think, a steadier approach next season. We're going to know what the stolen base landscape looks like.
There'll be some new rule that we'll all be up in arms against.
Oh, probably. You're right. There'll be something. Yeah. But there's labor peace. There's no, cross your fingers. There's no pandemic. Like there should be.
Knock on all the wood there.
Yeah. There should be more consistency. And we know what we will know at the end of the year what Esteury Ruiz or what a league leading base stealer looks like. Is it look like a 60 base steal guy, a 70, a 50? Like what does that look like? So
for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right, that's going to wrap it up for today's show. Good commentary in the chat, guys. Appreciate you as always. Thanks to our friends at Rivals Fantasy for sponsoring us and for the Blue Wire Network. We got James Anderson tomorrow on Thursday. I've got Michael Govier of FTN.com joining us. So looking forward to that one. Should be a very energetic podcast on that one there. And then next week in the Thursday slot, Mike Gianella from Baseball Prospectus. So got it booked a little in advance finally for once. So yay me. But thanks everybody for listening. Take care.